folks. Today we have the ALLAP dual transmitter UHF wireless Lavalier microphone set, and we're going to be taking a look at this particular set compared to another set that I have, which is the ALLAP-W1-2 from Lensco. Now, this particular set that I have is only a single transmitter, but the dual transmitter model has the same parts. You just get two transmitters. This is the more expensive set, and we'll take a look at why this set has, a couple areas where you might want to consider this set over this set. But what we want to do really is to listen to both of these and see how they sound, right? And go over some of the features, okay? So right now, I am on a cardioid mic on this camera, just to give you a sense of comparison. And then we'll switch over to each of these microphones and give them a test, okay? So let's start by looking at the ALLAP. The ALLAP comes in this really nice carry case. And when you open this up, you have a nicely padded interior, and all of the pieces have a place inside of this case. So you have your two transmitters, your receiver, and all your cabling fits nicely in here, okay? So in contrast, the Lensco 328C, it just comes in this carry bag, and you just kind of throw everything in there and dump it out. So, as far as the overall packaging is concerned, I think the ALLAP does a better job, okay? Now, let's take a look at the construction of these two microphones. So, you can see here, this is the Lensco. This is the receiver for the Lensco. And this is the receiver for the ALLAP, okay? And actually they're quite similar, right? About the same size. On this side here, you can see we've got the battery port. On the ALLAP, this battery port is just a cover, so you can just cover it up like this. It's a little bit awkward to use compared to the Lensco. On the Lensco, it's a tray. So what this means is when you're operating it, it doesn't just fall out on you. You can have the tray to hold on to. Now on this other side, you'll see there's charging ports. So the ALLAP has a micro USB charging port. So if you're using rechargeable batteries, you can use this to charge the batteries. And on the Lensco, it has a USB-C. I think this is probably a better choice because most phones now are USB-C, so you don't have to carry adapters or extra chargers with you, okay? On the back, they both have a wire clip that the cold shoe mount can clip onto, so you can mount this to your camera. And then otherwise, they have a very similar feel. The Lensco is a little bit heavier, and the plastic does feel a little bit higher quality, but not significantly different. They both have these screw-on connectors here to ensure that you can have a secure connection. So one big difference with the Lensco versus the ALLAP is actually on the transmitters. So the ALLAP doesn't have an ability to support any onboard memory to store a local file of the audio, whereas on the ALLAP, you can see down here, on the Lensco, you can see down here there's a little slot here for a TF card. So what that allows you to do is store audio locally on the transmitter in case there's any interference, if there's any cutout, you can still recover that audio file from the backup and have that audio. So this is definitely, the ability to store this information on the transmitter is definitely more of a professional feature, right? So if you're out in the field and there might be interference, it might be a deal breaker. You're definitely going to want to go with the more expensive Lensco. But if you're just in a studio environment, right, your limitations and sources of interference, ALLAP is probably good enough. It's significantly cheaper compared to the Lensco. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to hook these up and try them out and see how they sound, okay? So now we've switched off of the cardioid mic and we are on the lens go, okay? So I'm going to give this mic a couple of taps so that you can hear that this is coming from this mic. Ready? Okay. So this is the audio from the lens go. Right now I'm sitting pretty close to the receiver, so there's not a whole lot of interference or signal drop. But let's switch over to the ALLAP and see how it sounds in terms of the audio quality. All right, so now we've switched the audio over to the ALLAP, and hopefully you can hear a difference in how the ALLAP sounds versus the cardioid mic I have mounted and the lens go. And again, to verify that we're on this mic, I'm going to give it a couple of taps. Okay, so this is the audio quality from the ALLAP. All right, so we're back on the cardioid mic now, and I reviewed the audio files. In my opinion, they sound very similar, but the lens go definitely sounds just a little bit better in my opinion. There's just a tiny bit of hiss that's picked up in the background by the ALLAP that I don't feel like it's there on the lens go, but definitely maybe you could adjust this to sound very similar to lens go. I will say this, however, I do think that this set, the menus and the user interface on the ALLAP are significantly better and easier to use than the lens go. And I really like that it has this backlight functionality so that you can use it even if you're in the dark. I think that my opinion is that for most general purposes the ALLAP is cheaper and good enough, and it comes with a really nice carrying case. The lens go is more expensive, but if you need the professional grade features, for example the TF card on board the transmitter, then it's non-negotiable, right? Then you go with the lens go. I will point out a couple other things about this ALLAP that are worth noting. One is that with the ALLAP you have to be sure you get two cables, one cable to use with cameras and one cable to use with phones, and you have to be careful because it's not really apparent aside from this tiny text here that says phone, so you have to watch out which cable you're using, whereas with the lens go you get two different cables. One cable for the camera looks like this, so you can always tell if you're plugging in the correct cable. Otherwise, I think generally speaking this ALLAP is a really good value for most use cases, especially if you're using it indoors and the environment and you don't need the onboard recording on the transmitter. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of which one of these wireless Lavalier mic sets is the right one for you.